Hi, I'm Phil, and in these story analysis videos we take a look at a film in terms of its story structure, character arcs and themes. Today we're looking at Interstellar. Make sure you've seen the film, spoilers ahead. Interstellar was written by Jonathan and Christopher Nolan, although it was originally meant to be a Steven Spielberg movie written by Jonathan Nolan, but when Spielberg pulled out to do other projects, his brother Chris came in to direct. It's a long film, but it's one of those longer films that sustains, I think, for the entire duration. It does have a 3-act structure, even though it's a bit hard to find in places. The inciting incident for the A story, the mission of the film, is all those interviews about the Dust Bowl, setting up the way life is in this near-future world.
It's just constant, just that steady blow of dirt.
And many of those interviews come from an actual documentary by Ken Burns about the Great Depression period of the Dust Bowl in the 1930s.
You kids run and get together, the end of the world's coming.
It came like a black wall, a tide of destruction that crashed over the broken plains, choking the life out of everything in its path.
So they're real people talking about a real situation very similar to what the movie is depicting. The inciting incident for the B plot is the ghost in Murph's room.
It knocked it off my shelf. Keeps on knocking books off.
No such thing as a ghost, dumbass. Hey.
I looked it up. It's called a poltergeist.
Dad, tell her.
Wow, it's not very scientific, Murph.
We don't know what that is yet. We don't know what that means. But that will eventually lead us to what is the first act's turning point and eventually, of course, to the end of the film. So the first act comprises of meeting Cooper and his daughter Murph and son Tom and father Donald. We see the family dynamics there.
Miss Hanley, she's single.
Well, what's that supposed to mean?
Repopulating the Earth. Start pulling your weight, young man.
Especially the relationship between Cooper and his daughter Murph.
Well, Murphy's Law doesn't mean that something bad will happen. What it means is that whatever can happen will happen, and that sounded just fine with us.
So they spend quite a bit of time establishing the way things are, all the while establishing the stakes of the story.
This thing needs to learn how to adapt, Murph, like the rest of us.
And what they are rapidly losing.
Popcorn at a ball game is unnatural. I want a hot dog.
So there's a lot of things being set up in what's a fairly lengthy first act. The first act turning point proper is when Cooper works out the code in the dust on the floor.
It's not Morse, Murph, it's binary. Thick is 1, thin is 0. Coordinates.
And Cooper follows the coordinates and they find
NASA.
NASA. The same NASA you flew for.
Now there's quite a lot of exposition in this sequence, but Chris Nolan keeps it interesting by changing location, keeping the camera moving, and showing us what they're talking about as they explain things.
The real difficulty with colonization is genetic diversity. This takes care of that.
And here is where Brand makes the offer to Cooper.
We need a pilot, and this is the mission that you were trained for.
That's our first act turning point. The second beat of any first act turning point like that is our character making the choice to move into Act 2 and making a promise he knows he may not be able to keep.
I love you forever. You hear me? I love you forever, and I'm coming back.
This moment also sets up the other key problem of the story, that of solving the gravitational theory to help humans escape the planet.
Find us a new home, and by the time you return, I will have solved the problem of gravity. I give you my word.
And the moment he's driving down that road, and Murph chases after him, and we start to hear the countdown, that leads us directly into space. And the beginning of Act 2. The first sequence of Act 2, we now have to kind of start over again, establishing new relationships with the crew members, the people who will be with Cooper on this journey for the rest of the film.
We're going to be spending a lot of time together.
We should learn to talk.
Emma not to. Just being honest.
I don't think you need to be that honest.
And this is where we get the articulation of the spine of the film by Michael Caine's Brand.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
So that spine effectively holds together the entire A-plot, which is we refuse to die. We're doing everything we can as a species and as an individual not to die. That's what the mission's about, and that especially later in the story is what the Matt Damon character is about. He's trying to survive. Simple as that.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage against the dying of the light.
The B story, however, is built upon the theme of the film, which is built around the relationship between Cooper and Murph. And that theme is articulated here.
Tom will be all right, but you gotta make things right with Murph.
I will.
Without making promises you don't know you can keep.
So then we travel through the wormhole, and the next sequence is about them trying to assess the viability of the water planet near the black hole.
It's water, it's organics.
You don't buy that every day.
No, you don't.
And the whole time dilation effect.
Go, 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 go. 7 years per hour here. Let's make it count.
Finally getting back after decades have passed on the ship.
How many years?
By now it must be.
It's 23 years, 4 months, 8 days.
The midpoint for the film, the shit gets real moment, is when Cooper finally looks at all of his old messages, mostly from his son, and finally sees a message from his daughter, the now adult Murph.
You once told me that when you came back we might be the same age. And today I'm the age you were when you left. So it would be a real good time for you to come back.
This is the promise he made at the beginning, which he has now failed to fulfill. This midpoint also now switches our point of view. When they end that call, we go to Murph's point of view and we start to follow her and see what she's been up to on planet Earth and her relationship with her mentor, Michael Caine as Brand. Now we start to intercut between the two stories, Murph on Earth and Cooper in space, trying to find a new home for everyone. Because the first planet didn't work out, they moved to the second planet, which becomes the ice planet that Matt Damon's character has landed on and still survived to this day.
You have literally raised me from the dead.
Lazarus.
And then we find out
This was all a sham.
Your father had to find another way to save the human race from extinction. Plan B, a colony.
Which is ironic because Brand is the one who's been telling us to rage against the dying of the light. And he's the one who had given up.
Recursive, it's nonsensical.
Are you calling my life's work nonsense, Murph?
No, I'm saying that you've been trying to finish it with one arm. No, with both arms tied behind your back. And I don't understand why.
He was prepared to destroy his own humanity in order to save the species. He made an incredible sacrifice.
No. He declared their case hopeless.
I'm sorry, Cooper. Their case is hopeless.
No.
And then they discover the viability of man's planet turns out to be a lie.
Nothing worked out the way it was supposed to. Let's go.
This is our second act all is lost moment.
This data makes no sense.
If he takes control of that ship, we're dead.
There is a moment. Killing main engines. Okay, we're out of orbit.
Meanwhile, back on Earth, Murph is working it out. And Cooper has to make a sacrifice. This again, in Act 2, there's usually a sacrifice moment here for your central character.
I think we can scratch our way to Edmund's planet.
Well, what about fuel?
Not enough. But I have a plan.
The only way they can help Anne Hathaway's character of Brand get to the third planet, which is likely to be the most viable option, is to lighten the load.
Spent TARS will detach and get sucked right into that black hole.
Why does TARS have to detach?
Oh, we have to shed the weight to escape the gravity.
And for TARS to transmit from the black hole quantum information that will help them back on Earth, hopefully.
If I can find a way to transmit the quantum data I'll find in there, they might still make it.
This is Cooper's solution. That leads us into Act 3.
Mark!
Cooper, what are you doing?
Newton's third law. You gotta leave something behind.
But of course, he doesn't die. He ends up in the Tesseract, and we find the other half of our opening Inciting Incident scene.
Hey!
And we realise who that ghost was.
It was you. You were my ghost.
Who then leaves present-day Murph the coded message so she can finish the theory.
We code the data into the movement of the second hand.
And save the world. That's the end of the A-plot. Matthew McConaughey's Cooper has done what he can to save the Earth by getting that information to Murph, and also by helping the Anne Hathaway character get to the third planet, and hopefully start life all over again. He is stuck in a black hole, however. But then of course he travels back through the wormhole, and after many years gets to finally fulfill the B-story promise of returning home to his daughter.
It was me, Murph. I was your ghost.
I know.
Once that's done, once they've reunited, it's a very short scene. We don't need to do much more. The only thing left to resolve is the relationship with Brand. So despite the seeming complexities of this, and there are of course the whole time travel and time dilation elements that come into this, because they had Kip Thorne as a technical advisor and executive producer on the film, it's as scientifically accurate as any science fiction film has been to date. Pretty much after Arthur C. Clarke wrote the script and advised on 2001, A Space Odyssey, after all, which this is, of course, in part a homage to.
There's not going to be time for monkey business or chit-chat down there. So, Tars, you should definitely stay here.
So that's my take on Interstellar by Christopher Nolan. If you'd like to see more of these story analyses, you know what to do. And if you'd like to learn more about filmmaking, check out my book linked below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end, no dark is right. Because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.